So, the hardest question of the whole thing, can you say and spell your name for
Yes, my name is Reginald Jackson Helton, and that's ReginaldJackson with a hyphen or a minus sign, and that's HELT as in Tom ON.
me? And why don't you tell me a little bit, just tell me about yourself, just a general background, where you're from, what's going on now in your life, and very important to note, whatever you feel comfortable sharing. You don't have to share what you don't feel like sharing. You don't have to share anything you don't want to.
Okay, well, originally I was born in New Mexico. Moved around a lot as a kid because my family was poor. We followed some friends in different states and wound up living in a trailer in Illinois. And then just kind of can't. I'm gonna get nervous.
That's okay. Sorry.
But yeah, no. Essentially, yeah, poor growing up. I had ADHD when I was a child, and a bunch of people thought I wasn't gonna make it or become anything. I was in fifth and sixth grade, living in Illinois, and pretty much they said I was gonna be in jail or be dead by before I graduated high school, and um,
So how does that? What does that do? And I have an inkling of that myself. I went through the same kind of things when I was little. How do you? How does it? What does it do to a kid?
oh,
When you're getting those, it's that sort of no encouragement. The I think people hear that and they go, "Wow, that no way, that doesn't really happen," but it happens more than people think.
it really does. And I grew up in it's no longer prejudice anymore, but I grew up in a prejudiced town, and when you're getting called the N word, and I've been spit on, I've been beat up, I've been jumped. Other things have been done to me that are very derogatory. At the time. And not many people, other than people that are from the old school, really know about the levels of physical prejudice. They know about getting called names and everything, but it's really different when somebody puts a fist to your face behind whatever name they're calling you. And so coming from that, I was an honor roll student as a kid, and uh, high GPA, and I've always been competitive. So when I was faced with those things, I had to pretty much my mother and my dad taught me if we're out there, me and my sister, essentially just keep your head up, and don't let them have you defeated. You have to make liars out of them. Everything that they've ever said about you that's negative, you have to make them liars. You can't let them be right. And I was very keen on making sure a lot of people were liars.
And that's not even just in giant successes, right? I mean, that's in hope, having hope and having.
Period. I mean, that's it's a will and uh, a level of fortitude, you know, uh, and determination, that I refuse to say die. I refuse to quit. Um, and well, let's see. Other than that, I lived on my own for periods of time, and before I came out to California, I owned my own business. Um, lived in a I lived in a two-car garage, a duplex apartment, and had my own car and everything. And I left it all to come out here. Came out here on vacation, and I got stranded. And after I was stranded, I decided to stay. Uh, so my ride left, but things spiraled, and I did a lot of drugs, and you know, um, I ended up being homeless. So, um, and that's just a whole nother level and situation in itself.
Right, I bet. And I think people don't realize usually when you think about that, when you think about what makes a person become homeless, or what are the things that pile up that add to that, and it could be as simple as that. Anybody's one step away.
Really, it really is, because I had everything before I came here. I had everything. I was making money. I was part of my chamber of commerce. I was at ribbon cuttings, and I ate at all the nice restaurants, discounted or sometimes free. I did all that. But now, it was just a simple fact of one relationship that things didn't pan out as they were supposed to, and both of us spiraled in our own ways, and we're just no longer compatible, you know. And from there, having a place to stay and sleeping in a bed to sleeping in a steel bunk bed and having to shower with men. And yeah, I don't know if you put that in there or not,
Yeah.
but that's that's not something. Some people do it in high school, some people don't. That's not my idea of a fun time. And you really are. And it wasn't the drugs, it wasn't anything else. Because I've always been a high functioning person. I've never, even when I was doing drugs, I never went out and robbed somebody or stole from a store or, I've never done favors or anything crazy like that, for a drug, if it was
Well,
between
it
a,
can't be a way to cope, right? I mean, I think we find that with a lot of people is that it's a coping mechanism.
well, right. I think in some sense, and this is just, I think it's human nature that we all need something that takes the edge off of life. You know what I'm saying? Because and not necessarily saying that drugs are the way to go, or some vice. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a vice. You could go bowling, and that could take the edge off of life for you. You could go and sit in a prairie full of flowers, and that can take the edge off of life. But anyone, we all need that one thing or a couple things that, you know, not that I forget about my problems, but for this one moment, however long this moment lasts, I have a level of peace about myself. I have a sound mind and I can think clearly. And not that my problems have disappeared or gone away, but they're not as heavy as they could be. It's a level of escape and it's not necessarily numbing, without, being accountable for everything that you're going through. But it's just, it's just, it's like serenity. As a level of serenity. And everyone needs that, whether it be, unfortunately, for some people, it's meth or it's heroin, Uh, this is where I'll get into about the CFLC. Honestly, CFLC is my drug right now. I am not an addict. I've never been an addict. Even though I have an addictive personality, I am not an addict. But, I can say that, I just choose to be sober, because I don't feel like it, or I don't want to do it, or I don't have the money. There are more important things than the drugs that are out there, even if I like doing them or not. And you know, uh, being in the situation that I am, being homeless, I'm around all sorts of people from different walks of life who have plenty, all types of experiences, and it's been a learning experience in itself, But the things I have gone through while being homeless and staying at a shelter and around those type of people, and I'm not even calling those, they're people who are going through hardships, like I'm going through hardships, but how they interact with others and how they deal with others and how they lash out when they project, it's not necessarily the healthiest or the greatest. And, there's a level of hopelessness that's there, especially when you're in the system and it seems like the system can't do anything for you. And, um, it becomes almost crippling, because if you sincerely are trying to do everything in your own power, I don't want to be homeless. Somebody, give you an example. Someone said, that they were homeless for 5 years living on the streets, and he said one day he just got tired of it. And I asked him, well, it took you 5 years to get off the streets? And he said, no. He said, it only took me, 3 to 5 months. He said, but, I just got tired. I said, well, I've been tired since day one. I turned 33 and I went to a shelter on my birthday. That was my birthday present. That was my realization was, hey, you're 33, you're homeless. And my dad died homeless at a truck stop of a heart attack. He took himself in the bathroom and died. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to. I want to avoid generational curses.
You don't want that for you.
No, and I've been tired since day one. So I've done everything in my power, and after what, about 4 months, I started despising the system that I'm in, and I can't do anything, and nothing I can do in my own power. I no longer have any keys of my own, and unfortunately, I'm not going to say for all Californians, but I'd say it's a large part of California, and the people who live here have a very horrible stigma about homeless people. Not every person is a druggie. Not every person is lazy. Not every person is some deadbeat bum, and it's a shame that you have to deal with people, a lot of these people, they call themselves Christians, and they want to act like, that they're so religious, or whatever the case. But they look at me, someone who carries a couple extra bags in my backpack. Maybe they know I stayed at the shelter if they see me around, and they throw their nose up in the air. No, that's not God. No, you're fake. And sorry.
No, that's good. And that's exactly what I'm looking for because, excuse me, that's a story we've been trying to tell here. And this is even on the outside. It's that idea that because, like you said, that stigma, and I'll say it, that stigma is not just in California. That stigma is everywhere.
Yeah,
That is a stigma that surrounds the homeless community, and I think unfortunately we now have this really big tie with mental illness too. So they immediately assume, oh, well, they're mentally ill too, and this and that, and they don't understand what that even means.
no,
They're saying,
no. Can I?
yeah, absolutely.
One thing I've learned about even my own mental health is that you'd be surprised how much just so when life becomes overwhelming, and the natural state of your own, I was going to say welfare, your being, what I'm saying, like you have a panic attack or you have a nervous breakdown, or people have anxiety attacks, or something traumatic that happens to them that makes them change mentally, attitude, in their heart, some way or another, and people don't necessarily know how to deal because society naturally doesn't give us the tools to prepare us for our wife cheating on us. It doesn't prepare us to go out and see that, oh, my best friend who I thought was whatever, they're heroin addict, and it doesn't teach us how to cope with those things. It doesn't ready us, to deal with those things. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, what do we do? Of course, what do we do immediately? We find something to take the edge off. And because it's so heavy, it hurts. And I just need to. I want to. Not that I don't want to feel it, but I want to think without feeling harm. I want to process without being sad. You know,
at least for a while.
For a second. Shoot, some people would. Some people smoke spice. You're only high for 15 minutes. For 15 minutes. I don't want to think unhappily. That says a lot. 15 minutes of your time.
And that's a very good point. I like that point because that's how desperate it gets. It's just anything to take me away. So this actually transitions. That's really nice. So what brought you to CFLC? Where was that point where you discovered it, and then maybe tell me a little bit about when you first got here and what does it mean to you?
All right. Well, originally I was trying to get Social Security. I wanted to test myself and see if I have Asperger's, and I'm still waiting for that. But uh, my I don't know if she's still my caseworker or not, but she's brought me here and dropped me off one day. I got a tour, and I've been here every day since, over a month now. I mean, literally 7 days a week I come here. And I love the environment here. I love the staff here, the volunteers here. I love the co-ed environment because I stay at a men's shelter, and when you're around a bunch of men all day, and that's not necessarily your preference, it wears on you
I bet.
after a while.
Well, just simple interaction
Yeah.
with women or anybody.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, it's good to have a mix of both.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the good thing. I like it. Dudes are cool, but chicks are cool too. I mean, you know, um, and I was going the substance abuse route. And I went to rehab, and it got to the point where they I guess my coverage expired, my plan expired, but I passed all my drug tests and I made 85% of the meetings. But all they wanted to do is sign me up again. And it's like, why am I going to sign up again when clearly I'm not an addict? And, you know, uh, what further is there need for me to be still attending? You guys are just, I'm just another dollar sign to you guys, you know? Um, and like I said, my caseworker, she brought me here. And, you know, it, because unfortunately at the shelter I stay at, there's, it's it's burdensome. It's a heavy, heavy ambience of misery. Uh, and misery loves company, and there is a feeling of hopelessness. Um, and the environment's not great either. There's, I mean, I'll just be honest. There's roaches there. I mean, the volunteers are subpar most of the time. Or my own caseworker essentially tells me if he doesn't feel like working with me that day or he doesn't feel good, he's like, no, I'm not going to see you today. There's no one on site for social services or therapy or counseling. You know, I I before I got there, well, before I had say my second or third month in, for the most part, all they served was soup. I mean, you can get a bowl full of vegetables and maybe three to five pieces of meat. I mean, most of the guys there have, that I've never met a weak person who's homeless, honestly, because they all they do is lug around and carry stuff, and it's heavy stuff, but they got big bellies, but they're not growing stronger. It's malnutrition, you know. I
And especially when you have to deal with the elements, you have to deal with all that out there.
Yes, you know what, and even in like I call it the block. I was at one point I was offered weed, cocaine, uh, meth, heroin, alcohol every day, every single day. And if you're trying to be in a place, individually with recovery, that is not the place you want to be. I mean, honestly, anyone who is trying to recover and they're homeless or they're uh, displaced, I have to, because I'm going through it myself, I have to give you a lot of kudos. Be proud of yourself, because if you are prevailing, even if it's a couple days, shoot, and if it has to, even if it's necessary, a couple hours, that's more, especially when it's right in your face. And then it's not that they care about your recovery. They don't. If anything, like I said, misery loves company. Hey, why don't you smoke with me? Hey, let me go buy you a beer. Hey, I'm smoking. You want to hit this rock real quick? I- and it's everywhere. On top of it, being at a shelter, you don't have a safe place to store your stuff. I'm thankful for my bed because I don't want to stay out in the streets. I'll admit that. I'll be the first to admit that. I've done it before. I don't want to do it again. But the thing is when you can sit your stuff down, or you think your at least your bedding is safe. I have three pillows at the shelter right now with my initials on all four sides of the pillows, and they've been stolen from me. I've had jackets stolen from me. I've had my shoes stolen from me. I've had
So in a lot of ways, it becomes just like being on the street.
it might you
All of that all the time.
yeah, you might as well be.
Not a very sound sleep, I would think.
No.
So how during the day? So do you basically come here early in the day and you sort of hang out and do things at CFLC, right?
Essentially.
How does that become? How's that different? Let's talk about that. How does maybe walk me through one of your days here?
Okay. Well, I know, man, I might get emotional.
That's right.
Okay, so
And you can stop. You can sort of take a break.
okay. Um, well, essentially, like all the environments and the what you're going through every day, like I just described, um, when you find a place, you know, one, people are accepting of you because it's you. You know, there are people here who value genuinity in someone, being real about yourself, being real about your accountability for yourself and where you're at in yourself in your life. That's a lot, because when you're around a bunch of people and you haven't even done anything out of your way to hurt them, to harm them, and if anything, you've tried to help or you've tried to encourage, and they still would rather nothing more than to see you hurt and broken. You know, being in a place like this uh, saves one, keeps one, sane. And someone actually told me this the other day, and they said they told me that when I come here, I have a big heart. But they said when I come here, that there is like a level of healing that happens. And whether I'm here for a couple hours or I'm here the entire day. And yes, I do the classes. I do a lot of the classes. I made beads and stuff, you know. But when you're here and you're around people who also want to improve themselves and they want to better themselves and they want to encourage and help those who are around them, like-minded people who are on the same page, maybe not the same, maybe not the same page, maybe they're in the same chapter, different pages, but at least, it doesn't matter if they're ahead or behind. At least they want to do something with themselves. They don't want to sit around all day and not, you know, be productive, or they want to do drugs or, anything else like that. I come here and, you know, I get to feel like I'm not homeless.
It's just for a minute, right?
Essentially, that's why I said this is my edge. This is what helps me live. And thankfully, I'm not in jail for hurting somebody. And if I hadn't found this place when I did, I would have hurt somebody already because I was on my way.
And again, it's that like I said, it's easy to get into a spiral.
It is.
And I think the general public just doesn't understand that, and that's why I'm grateful for being a part of it. I mean, I think when you look at CFLC, the concept and what it's become, oh, I'm right there with you. I mean, it is a different world.
It is.
It's a world of support. It's a
Yeah.
world of people who really, truly, and I know I was very skeptical when I first started working here. That's absolutely what you think it is. That's a fantastic thing.
It's a blessing. It really is. And like I said, it's a lifesaver. Honest, like I said, I definitely wouldn't be of sound mind. I wouldn't be able to put together many good thoughts. It's okay. Let them flow. I don't wipe my tears. I let them fall. You gotta. I'm not ashamed.
Well, and I'll say the one thing that amazes me the most about you is, again, keeping that hope within this. Because it's pain. I mean, you do. It sounds like, there's a lot of pain to go through in a day. And again, even with the respite here, and I think that this is key to recovery in general is hope. Once you lose hope, you're done. And it's really, really encouraging to see that.
Well, I mean, I have my faith, and that is like my core. That is my everything, and I believe and I thank God for everything that He's done for me, and I'm His and His alone, and um, it was Him who brought me here and allowed me to even find this place, and I guess hope would be a good word for it, um, because it gives me something to aspire about. But I don't even think hope actually does it justice because, hope doesn't keep me alive. Hoping in something, wishing for something doesn't keep me sane. It's bigger than hoping.
And I agree with you. Strength of soul, maybe
Well,
something,
well,
something more, like you said, more spiritual. There's something at the core there.
right. Well, I mean, even here, uh, it's more than just, well, I hope things are going to get better and I have hope that things are going to get better. I no, I I mean, I guess it's like a conscious decision, no matter what, I mean, when you're tired enough of pain, you're going to do anything to stop going through it. When you're tired enough of feeling a certain way, you're going to do everything the exact opposite not to go that way anymore. And that's just where I'm at. It's maybe you can call it absolutes, maybe you can call it extremes, But I'm in a place where I'm not going to settle for less. I'm not, and unfortunately, when I leave here every day, I have to go back to the real world, which is everything I described earlier. I mean, some of it, whatever, may end up on camera, may not, but you know, I I have to go back to that. I have to go back to being around a bunch of people who are naturally unhappy with themselves and they're unhappy with their environment and they're and that makes me feel the same way that the energy they put off I also am around. Eventually I'm a recipient of it, because that's all they give off, and then some people are so miserable, of course, like I said, misery loves company, and they're like, well, he's happy, if I'm not happy, I don't want him to be happy.
Zero sum, yeah. That's well, and you almost have to reset every day.
I do.
Start from scratch.
I do. It's a I have to take I have to take my essentially I have to every time I leave I have to take my life with me. If it wasn't for a shed that I have there, my whole life would be with me every single day because I have nothing else. I don't have a place to call I don't have a place to call my own. I don't have a home. I have a bed at an establishment that doesn't necessarily care for me. And not only do they not necessarily care for me, but they want absolute power over my actions and what I do and how I do things. You know, that is a hopeless situation in an environment that there's negatives and things that will cause increase of spirals and even further into an abyss of a downfall with the drugs and the thievery and the lies and the backstabbing.
And excuse me, it's a little off the subject, but I may want to use you at some point, I'm going to push the concept. So we do a lot of stuff with the homelessness situation, right? Or at least we're supposed to. And I think one of the problems in general with this issue of government stepping in and doing something is you have so many Indian chiefs, right? You got all these people
Yeah,
doing things different directions.
right.
So the question is, how do you get it all in the same direction? And I think the one thing that I notice in general is nobody asks people that are homeless, right? I mean, you look at the shelter situation.
Right.
You look at how men's shelters versus women's shelters versus, and like you said, it becomes about rules, because they almost, they wind up punishing the whole for the one or two that make a break here.
Well, can I give you an
Yeah.
example? There was a person who used to come in and he would speak from his Bible. He was from a church, and every time in his sermon he would say, "Because you're here, like because you're here at the shelter, you must have sinned or you must have done something
Right.
wrong or it was your screw up. You're a screw up. You're a deadbeat." And it's funny because I've sat at a table with 5 to 6, 7 other people, and none of them were homeless because they did drugs. None of them were homeless because they went to jail. None of them were homeless because they were just lazy and didn't want to work. Most of them had back injuries or hurt themselves on the job, or they had stocks and just like we had all these stock crashes, they lost their investments.
So they lost a job.
Exactly. That's you have to you can't not have complete absolutes. There has to be an exception somewhere. You know.
And I think what tends to happen is there's a general and a really at the core of people a misunderstanding of that.
Right.
I think that's where, and that happened a long time. It used to be the case with drugs. I think that's changing now.
Yes.
So hopefully that's what we can sort of start to push out there is first understand the problem.
Right. Well, I'm going to give you another example. I used to volunteer at Cap K Food Bank, and I was invited there, and there's people who are there who work, and they, of course, if maybe you don't, they pack bags of different donated items and things that are from different grocers and stores, and they put them in bags and put them in a skid to be distributed to different shelters or the different, excuse me, nonprofits are allowed to go, and for so much per pound they're allowed to go and uh, get things for the people who are staying at the different shelters, or people who come and they need food or some level of sustenance, and
I went in there and I worked really hard, really hard. I'm not going to be specific, but I would hear people who were paid, over talk, and they say, "Why is he working so fast? Why is he doing so
Making them
much?"
look bad.
Yeah, well, making them look bad, but they didn't understand that I'm not getting paid. Well, I mean, they
We
knew
have pride.
they knew I'm not getting paid. I'm not getting paid. I'm a volunteer, but I'm packing every bag for myself. I'm homeless. I'm going to make sure every single bag I pack is filled to the brim and can still close. Because every bag I pack is going to be able to make sure I can eat. I have something I don't have to go to bed hungry. I don't have to go 10 plus hours waiting for a meal because I don't have any money, because I can't get a job, because I can't clean myself. I don't have the clothes for an interview.
So what do you think is the next, or I don't even know if it's the next step. Sorry. What's your hope? What is your hope that? And I know you talked about the caseworker and where they're sort of sitting with the testing. What's the hope for you,
Uh,
or your hope for you?
my hope in me is in Yahweh, my Elohim, and through salvation, through Yahshua HaMashiach, which is Jesus, you know. But in God and Messiah are lying my hope, and through Him, I've been able to find things like CFLC, and I'm on the verge. I have the paperwork now to start volunteering. I've been here long enough, attended enough classes. I'm here doing this interview here with you. And all these things wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't found something positive, something that was uplifting, something that was going to help me progress, something that was going to help me add something applicable to my life, something that was going to help me grow as a person. And uh, because I also want more and better for myself, and I want to be self sufficient, you know, and I care for myself. I want to take care of my own well being more than I want anyone else to do it, more than the government, more than CFLC. I want me to be better. And that's where I guess we have to hope is that people start getting tired enough, and if it's not the person watching on the other side, maybe it's someone they know or whatever, but maybe you get tired of seeing your brother or your sister or your friend in a destitute situation, living a life of desolation, and they're it looks hopeless. There has to be something, to say that, man, you know, being a human, humanity, doesn't need to be in this position. Something that will move on you or move on us as a whole, to see that out there, that's my brother or my sister. That's we all, because we're all part of the human race. There's only one race, and that's the human race. And to see that, you know, you being able to come home and sit in front of your TV and take a hot shower and go to bed when you want to, and you wake up and you go to work the next day. Those are all luxuries. Being able to sit down in a couch or use a toilet, you don't have to worry about catching hepatitis. Those are luxuries of convenience. Convenience is a luxury when you're homeless. There's no such thing as being comfortable. There's no such thing as it doesn't exist. But where it starts is us. We have to want more for those who want more. And I'm not saying everyone wants more, and that's between them and themselves and their God or whatever they're doing, however they live their lives. But if you see someone who's out there, who's trying, who wants more, who wants to do something for themselves, or they want to do something for their community, or they want to do something for their friend, you know what I'm saying? Support them. Because if it was you, could you wear my shoes? If you had to put on my shoes for a day, and the CFLC didn't exist, and you were around a bunch of drugs, and you had no hope, and the people around you gave off the energy of no hope, and they were miserable, and they hated themselves, and they hate you because you're trying not to be miserable. How would you live day to day, going on 5 months? How would you live? Would you wear my shoes if you had a choice? I don't think so. You wouldn't. Nobody wants to wear those shoes. And there's people out there who have it worse than me.
And that's such an important point there, and I really appreciate it. I really appreciate that time. You know, yeah, this is big. This is powerful, and I really appreciate you coming down. I think I got it. I think I got what I need from you. Is there anything else you want to add? I shouldn't say I think. I know I got what I need from you. Let's put it that way. But because and like I said, I'm sitting here thinking, oh crap, this person needs to listen to this. This person needs to listen to this. Because I really do think there's something here that is at the root of this. That is at the root of this issue, and I think you hit on it. I mean, it's look. Not everybody wants to help, but how do we get those people that do want to help quickly, and how do we get them in the system or
Right,
whatever?
right.
The right path.
Well, I mean, it's not just me though. You know, there are people who are volunteers here. There are people who are staff here who are also recovered addicts. You know what I'm saying? They're no longer saying, "Well, yeah, I'm 25 years sober, I'm an addict." No, they're saying I'm a recovered addict because the CFLC is a place of recovery. You know, this is a place where you can rebuild yourself, reestablish yourself, reestablish your mental health, reestablish your emotional health, reestablish being able to be capable in society, you know? And the shelters aren't doing that for us.
Yeah, and I do think people see the general public looks at the shelter as a solution,
And it's not.
and not. Yeah, I agree.
It's not. You know? Other than that, I give all praises and glory to my Most High Yahweh Elohim, and I praise Him for salvation through His Son Yahshua Hamashiach, my Messiah, and He is my Master, and I'm guided by His Ruach, His Spirit, the Ruach Hakodesh, and they lead and guide me in everything I do, and no matter what, all praises and glory unto Him, and power and the honor.
Very good, my friend.